Right now at 11, fentanyl in the mail, the push to close a federal loophole that one congressman says is contributing to the crisis. Plus, the hottest places on the map, what a new study reveals about local neighborhoods that swelter in the summer. But first,
I think we all agree that the right answer is not to hand people tents and say, welcome, you can join the population of homeless people on the streets of Portland. That is the wrong answer.
the update on a group of asylum seekers looking for a lifeline in the Rose City. A very good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Mulco. That group of 80 refugees includes more than 30 children who were set to be left without a roof over their heads Friday when funding for their motel rooms was set to run out. KGW first brought you this story on Wednesday and broke the news that Multnomah County offered the asylum seekers tents as an alternative. Tonight, a reprieve, with the county announcing it will pay to keep those migrants in their Northeast Portland hotel until the end of the month, buying time to find a more permanent solution. In a statement, County Chair Jessica Vega Peterson saying, quote, "These challenges are much larger than any one local government can solve alone," end quote. Here's what she told our Blair Best today before this latest development.
I'm calling on the city and the state to also offer support for families, for newcomers, and for the families that are here, but also those are
the $25 million in the legislation.
Well, it's worth noting that City Commissioner Renee Gonzalez's office paid for an extra week of hotel stays after funding from a local nonprofit ran out. Here is what one of those refugees told Blair earlier.
Ahí adentro hay alrededor de 30 niños que quedarán sin hogar. Necesitamos su ayuda, en que nos pueden ayudar para nosotros algo para vivir, donde nuestros hijos no pasen necesidades en la calle.
Certainly gives you a sense of the precarious reality for those 20 or so families. By the way, in 2022, the Oregon Department of Human Services spent $29 million on a welcome center for asylum seekers. That program ended in December, but the legislature just approved another $2 million for community groups to help incoming families. KGW has reached out to the governor's office multiple times over the past couple days to get a sense of the state's role in all of this and what they can do. So far, we have not yet heard back. We will keep you posted. Tonight, we are hearing from the family of the man who was brutally murdered on a MAX train in what police are calling an unprovoked attack. Michael Brady, a husband and the father of a 6-year-old boy, was on his way home from work Friday evening when another passenger fatally stabbed him. His niece telling us Michael was the glue that kept family members together. Tim Gordon with that story.
I've gotten some terrible calls in my lifetime, but that was by far the worst.
That is the moment Rev Miller found out her uncle, Michael Brady, was killed on a MAX train. Brady grew up in Indiana, and Miller says he lived here in Portland for about 15 years.
Like, Indiana wasn't his jam. So he kind of made his way out west.
Court documents show Brady boarded the train at Pioneer Courthouse Square and was stabbed in an unprovoked attack at the 82nd Avenue MAX stop last Friday night around 6.
It's infuriating. I'm like, the only emotion I'm sad, obviously, but I am so angry. I am angry at the justice system. I am so angry at this man for doing this because it was so senseless. There was nothing that Mike was doing.
The suspect, 51-year-old Shondell Larkin, told police a voice he heard made him believe the victim was going to kill him.
He was minding his business. He was listening to his earphones, and that's what he normally did. He would call his family, like he would talk to people on his commute.
Miller says Brady leaves behind a wife and young son.
My uncle was a very kind and very loving person. He adored his son. Like, his son hung the moon. He adored his wife.
She says her uncle was like an older brother to her and was a great role model.
He worked hard, and that's what he should be remembered for, because he was awesome. He was great.
Tim Gordon reporting there. The suspect in the case appeared in court on Monday. His arraignment is scheduled for next week. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines, in Newburgh, police have found the body of a woman who went missing over the weekend. Crews have been searching for 43-year-old Carolyn Duncan since Sunday. They found her body this afternoon around a creek not far from her home. Police say there is no known threat to the public. The medical examiner is working to figure out exactly how Duncan died. In North Portland, police arrested more than a dozen people Tuesday in a neighborhood crime mission. Authorities say this was in response to complaints of chronic criminal activity, drug dealing, and livability issues in the Jansen Beach and Delta Park areas. Officers say they stopped 20 vehicles, 3 of which were stolen, and seized fentanyl, meth, and a handgun. They arrested 13 people, including a suspect wanted for aggravated identity theft and elder fraud abuse. And a massive transformation project is now underway at the Portland Art Museum. The $100 million+ renovation will add nearly 100,000 square feet of space to that downtown complex. It includes the new Mark Rothko Pavilion, which will create a new front door into the museum. There will also be new and upgraded gallery spaces and public areas. Work is expected to be finished by late 2025. Today in Salem, Governor Tina Kotek signed Oregon's first major campaign finance reform legislation in decades into law. House Bill 4024 passed with overwhelming bipartisan support, as well as the support of government watchdog groups and labor unions. It puts stricter limits on how much so-called small donor committees can donate to candidates. It also slashes the maximum amounts that nonprofit membership organizations are allowed to give candidates. However, it does not take effect until 2027 after the next gubernatorial and statewide elections. And speaking of the governor,
we are working on a set of questions that we will submit to the Oregon Government Ethics Commission around the first spouse.
Yeah, today Governor Kotek answered questions from reporters about creating a new office for the state's first lady. Her comments follow the exit of 3 prominent aides from her office. Kotek refuted that those resignations had anything to do with the first spouse, Amy Kotek Wilson. Instead, Kotek says those were personnel decisions, though she did not clarify. As for the First Lady, the governor says her wife, who has a master's in social work and is in recovery, can help Oregon battle one of its largest issues, addiction. And while she acknowledged there was some uncertainty around exactly what kind of role a spouse might take, Kotek pointed out she will still be the one making decisions.
But at the end of the day, I make all the policy decisions. I was elected, I'm the governor, the buck stops with me.
The governor says her office is set to send the Ethics Commission its questions on Friday. We will see. Today, Multnomah County officials shared the results of a project that is the largest of its kind in the world so far. It is a heat map, a brightly colored one that covers some 400 square miles across the Tri-County area. Alma McCarty shares more on how it's going to help neighborhoods and policymakers prepare for climate change's extremes.
Spring is in full swing. And despite the cooler temperatures now, some are looking ahead to the summer heat.
We want to make sure we're better prepared
by looking back at the 2021 heat dome. Here's Brendan Haggerty with Multnomah County.
We learned some hard lessons during that event, and it showed us just how susceptible to heat we are.
Jerisha Brannon remembers it well.
2021 was very hot. You could just look at the newspaper articles and all the information that was coming about people being unresponsive and the death and really traumatic things that were happening because of the heat.
The deadly event, which claimed the lives of more than 70 people in Multnomah County, sparked a project to determine disparities in summer temperatures and pushed Brannon to volunteer.
My partner and I did 3 routes across southeast Portland between Mount Tabor and Woodstock.
Using special equipment attached to their cars, more than 100 people across Multnomah, Clackamas, and Washington counties collected data on one day last July, driving along predetermined routes and picking up more than 250,000 temperature readings.
We're able to turn that into a map of the entire metro area that shows us where the hottest and coolest places are.
And what researchers found was consistent with what they expected. Areas with a lot of pavement, with low-rise buildings but not much tree canopy, ended up being hotter, like industrial spots by the airport. In Multnomah County, areas near the Lentz neighborhood and Mall 205 topped the list for hottest spots. Wood Village, Maywood Park, and Fairview, the county's hottest cities.
What we found is a 17-degree difference between the hottest and the coolest places. And for some people, that could be the difference between life and death, or going to the emergency room, or feeling safe and cool enough in your home.
Haggerty says the report will help them plan for the next extreme event and think long-term about solutions, like removing pavement, planting more trees, and building structures that can withstand the heat.
We hope that systems and environments change over the course of years to make us more resilient to events like this.
Alma McCarty, KGW News.
Interesting to have that data. You're watching KGW News. Straight ahead at 11, the plan in the works to close a loophole one congressman says is responsible for allowing in deadly and illegal drugs. And we are less than 5 days out from the next great American eclipse. How the experts at NASA are hoping to take advantage of totality. Joe?
Everyone's waiting for Monday and looking at the forecast over the next few days, more of the same. Cool and showery weather pattern. But if you're traveling over the mountain passes, snowfall could be measured in feet by the end of the weekend. I'll have a look at your detailed forecast in just a few minutes.